Welcome back to the shop. If you've used a piece of outdoor equipment very much, one of the most common things to fail is your pull rope. There's two ways to fix that. At a lot of places, like on this particular model, you can buy this whole housing. It's held on with 4 bolts. You take it loose and just replace a new housing. On this particular one, that'll run you about $38 to $40. If you got a little bit of skill to you and common sense, most of the time what breaks is just the recoil spring, which is this part. Depending on what model you got, they range anywhere from about $8 to $12. So you can actually rebuild this for about $8 to $12. I'm gonna show you today how to take this off. Most of them are the same. There's a little bit of difference in them, but they mostly work the same. So first thing we're gonna do is just remove these 4 screws. Some of these are held on with Allen heads, some of them with Phillips heads, some of them with flat heads. Every model's different. You just have to look and figure out what yours takes. And next, we'll just pull it out. And while you got this off, inspect that dog, or that paw, whatever you want to call it. Make sure the ends are crisp and clean. If not, you may want to go ahead and change it. When I say crisp and clean, make sure there's no wear or pushed up patterns on it. Now, this is what your rope wraps around. Your recoil spring is underneath, so to do that, we got to take this loose. In this particular case, we'll just use a regular flathead screwdriver. Now, when you're taking this out, hold your finger against it, because if that spring's in a bind, it can jump out there at you. Probably what we're going to find is this spring's either broken or the end is straightened out. Just lightly pull it out and make sure it's not really hanging on nothing. You see that? It's broke. This piece catches here as it winds tight. I'm going to cut this rope off because I'm going to put a new rope on it. If your rope's in good shape, you don't necessarily have to do this. And now it's trying to come out on me. Just take your needle nose and grab it on the inside and the outside of the spring in there. And be careful because that will pop out. Now, this is a little bit dirty, so I'm gonna clean it out. You want it nice and clean when you put it back together. When you take these springs out of the package, I thought I had it recording, I didn't. Cut the package, don't try to tear it, because this is held in by a little thin piece of wire, some of them by plastic, and you don't want to tear it out. You want to turn this part to where that it's going to fit down into that groove. So I'm going to try to bring you in there. I like to lay it to where that it's pretty close. And you may have to finagle it. Be careful that you don't knock that wire off the outside. And push it over to where that lines up there. Now I found after that, I can take this flathead screwdriver and push that down while you hold it in. And then I'll take a pair of needle nose or small punch or screwdriver. I use a lot of these little, I don't know what you would call them, but just pointing. And hold it down and slowly let it release, but hold it all the way down so it don't pop out. And then remove your wire. I see a lot of these come in and people put grease and oil in here. Don't do that. That attracts dirt and it holds it in there and then it starts binding on itself. You want that clean and dry. If you decide to put a new piece of rope in your rotor, this is the part that faces up. If you flip it over, you can see where the rope comes in through the back side. You can take your knife or a screwdriver and just get it up where you can grab it and pull it out. Cut you a new piece of rope, and then to make it easier to feed in, burn the ends of it. And then take your rotor. If you look at it through the sides, you can find where that piece of rope comes out. I like to just lay it right there on the edge of it And then I'll take my punch and get it started. Once you get it started in there, if you roll it over, you can see it sticking out. Just take your pair of needle nose, pull it through, tie a simple knot. And you don't want to leave a lot of the tail sticking through your knot. And then just cinch it down and make sure everything is tucked down inside of that recess. Now what you want to do is look at it, and you can tell the way this feeds, which direction the rope feeds. So when you put your rotor back in, you want the rope to feed off of this side. So just take your rope, wrap it around your rotor. I like to put a little extra and then I cut it off, but you don't want your rope to stick out past the sides of your rotor. And then I'll take this rope and feed it in. You see what I'm talking about? It's feeding off of this side to come into the hole smooth. If it fed off of this side, it'd be wearing it. Here it feeds through the whole solid. Now we'll take our screw and put it back in to secure it. And now if you look, when you pull it, it recoils in. So next we're gonna put our handle back on before we go any further. And I'll show you how to tension it. Let's take my rope, take my handle. And I cut entirely too much rope this time by accident. See our rope sticking up. And you could do this without this little tool. It just makes it easier. Everybody ties a rope different. I just put 2 back-to-back knots in it, and that always seems to hold. Everybody has their own way or their right way. I cut entirely too much rope this time. And then we'll just snip off. We'll just snip off that extra rope. Let it pull back up into the handle. Now I'm going to show you how to set your spring tension. While you hold this firmly, pull your rope out where you got some slack there. I like to get about 1 foot or 2. Now you notice in this rotor where that slot is. Pull your rope up between the rotor and the side case, and this is the reason for that slack. And slide your rope into that slot. Keeps it from hitting on the sides. Now what you're gonna do is hold it up, and you want to wrap it. And this can be tricky. It's hard for me to record and keep my hand out of the way. But you want to turn this the same way that the rope would pull out. And turn it about 3 or 4 pulls. And then pull. Now you can see now we'll stick it back on the machine. When you put it on, you may have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to line up. And we just simply put our bolts back in the reverse way we took them out. Now this machine won't start because we're still waiting on the carburetor to come. But as you can see, that recoil is fixed. So that should be about a 10-minute job with basic tools that most people have around the house. You don't have to use the little pointed piece that I had. You could use anything and work it through there. We went from spending $40 for a whole assembly and a 5-minute job. That was about an $8 repair if you did it yourself. Keep in mind, most of your Husqvarna, Stills, and Echoes, those starters assemblies are the same as far as how they're constructed and put together. They pretty much go together the same, just some with clips, some with bolts. but the principle of it's the same. I appreciate y'all joining me, and I hope you learned a little something for that.